Hi, everyone. In this section of our lecture, we're going to talk about kitchen and bath materials in general, and then focus in on the countertop materials in specific. There are a lot of materials that go into a kitchen and bath projects. Fixture and fitting materials, cabinet materials, appliance finishes, countertop materials, and flooring materials. Today and in this module, we're going to focus in on the countertop materials. Later in the bath section of our class, we'll talk about those fixtures and fittings. The first countertop material I want to cover is solid wood. Yes, you can make a countertop out of solid wood. And there's two different ways to construct a solid wood countertop, and one is called edge grain, and the other is called end grain. So take a look at the two pictures right here. You can see the difference. It's the difference in which way the wood is laid when it's constructed. Okay. There's a couple different finishes you can use on solid wood countertops. If you use a unfinished wood surface, it will be oiled, and then the client needs to maintain that oil throughout the countertop's life. A pre-finished wood countertop can be used for chopping, like a butcher block countertop. And finally, you can have a wood countertop that's sealed with polyurethane. And that's good if it's going to be exposed to liquids. For example, look at this countertop right here that's right next to and around a sink. That's probably sealed with polyurethane, but it's not a good surface for contact with food, and therefore you can see that you need to use a cutting board with that. Moving on to ceramic tile. Ceramic tile is a very popular and very beautiful choice for kitchens and bathrooms. And it affords you as a designer a lot of flexibility. Okay, you need to check and do some research before you specify any particular tile. Check for the manufacturer usage recommendations. You need to check the tile porosity. That's how much water it's going to absorb. All right. It's important that your countertops have a fairly low tile porosity, but it may not be so important for wall tiles. You need to check the available trim pieces, the grout selection and which is the appropriate grout for the tile, and finally the installation method for your tile. Ceramic tiles have a couple of installation methods. First, they can be installed on a conventional mortar bed. Sometimes this is called mud set. This is less common because the quicker and easier method is a thin set method over a backer board. So most of the time, if you create a tile countertop, it's going to be thin set. The other way to do it is an adhesive or mastic method, and that's usually used for sheets of tile onto a wall. When you have tile, you have grout. There's a couple of kinds of grout, and one is called cementitious, like cement. It's got cement in it, cementitious. And two kinds are sanded or unsanded. Cementitious grout is the most common or popular grout for kitchens and baths. And as you probably know from your personal life, it's easily stained. The other choice is an epoxy grout. It is less porous. It can still be stained. All right. It might be a good choice for kitchens. However, it's more expensive and it's more difficult to install. So here we see a picture of a cementitious grout being installed right here. And here we see a couple of examples of some very fancy and sparkly epoxy grouts. I mentioned that one of the things you need to think about when using tile is all of your edge conditions. And here's a couple of examples. You need to detail how you want your tile to be finished around any windows and cabinets. So the suggestions here are to try to center the tiles on your windows, and therefore you get half tiles or more at each side. You rarely or never want to design less than half a tile. It's called a sliver, and you want to avoid those. You also want to end the tile directly under your cabinet and build it from there, and then cut only the bottom course. And so an ideal installation is right here where you have it ending directly under the cabinet and then full tile, full tile, full tile. Under some conditions, you might cut that top course of tiles, and then you have a single piece of bullnose right here that's notched. One thing you might do in this condition where you have tile all the way around a window, one choice is to create a tiled window stool. So keep that one in your back pocket. Moving back to countertop installation, because that was kind of where we started here, let's talk about tile countertops. A tile countertop is going to have a 3/4 inch plywood underneath. Try to specify exterior grade plywood for that water resistance. And then you might have an overhang on your countertop. So here's a couple of different ways you can do that. Short overhangs can be cantilevered out just by adding some blocking underneath. And here's an example of that. Longer overhangs are going to need some additional supports. Here's a couple of ways to do it. One is some brackets spaced along your countertop. One is to extend your countertop base, maybe at each side. And a third way is to still provide those brackets, but make them be steel angle brackets, so you get a little more knee space underneath. Moving on from tile, let's talk about concrete. Concrete is a fairly popular kitchen countertop surface. It can be poured in place or prefab. Prefab would be made in a factory somewhere else and to the specifications of your kitchen and then installed in place. One of the benefits of concrete countertops is that they can be seamless and of any shape that you desire. So if you want a curved or unusual or irregular edge, this is a possibility. The material itself can be dyed, polished, stamped, or stained. And one thing you need to keep in mind and set your client up for their expectations is that there absolutely will be hairline cracks. And that's called crazing. And here is an example of it here. The last thing you want to keep in mind about concrete counters is that you need to seal them to prevent stains. And your client will need to repeat that sealing process for maintenance. We're going to finish up this particular video by talking about glass countertop. Yes, glass can be used as a countertop material, and there's two main ways. One is tiny chips of recycled glass, and the other is larger sheets of tempered glass. And so I've got some pictures of that here. This is a countertop made up of small pieces of recycled glass formed together. Or you can have your entire countertop made of tempered glass. Here's one that has it for the bar top as well as kind of an underlit, interesting look kitchen countertop. One way that some people like to use it is as an accent piece. So here we have like a raised bar top over your regular sized kitchen island. All right, there's so many countertop materials that I am splitting them in two. In this video, we talked about wood, ceramic tile, concrete, and glass. And we will continue in the next video. Thanks, everyone.